Rides, brought to you by I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hey, I'm Justin the guy. Well, this week is another heavy hitter and humdinger. Excuse all the little puns, but anyway, we're in a situation where I've kind of seen it coming this way, going this way. It has been this way. It's not really too much of a shocker what we're heading into or what we've been experiencing in the cycling industry. So what we're looking at is another release announcements of layoffs. Just going to cut right to the chase. So yeah, layoffs, they suck. I've been part of one. My friends have been part of them before. It's just one of those horrible things. You just gotta, it's part of life, part of business. Well, when you look at layoffs in general, let's just start there. Layoffs are, obviously the company is not doing as well or the market is not doing as well, or their projections are not doing as well. Well, a lot of companies will use that to do kind of a shakedown of kind of reevaluate their assets of employees and what they're all involved and what departments, and it just basically is a good self-check for a lot of companies. And they do shake out a lot of people during that process because they're in a situation where, okay, we slowed down, we got to double trim the fat basically. And those take out those redundancies, especially if there's acquisitions involved. So that's where you get that first round of layoffs during some economical kind of downturn or slowage or whatever it may be. We're coming off of a super high of the COVID insurgent boom. And now we're going into a super low. Well, it feels like we're jumping off a cliff because the drop is pretty low. We've experienced these before. I've seen them in the 90s and the 2000s and even in the teens. You just have like those up and down swirls, right? Well, this is a little different. It's a little harder of a drop from a bigger point. And in addition to, a lot of these companies are not just doing one round of layoffs, they're doing multiple rounds of layoffs. And they're like every 3 months to 6 months reevaluating, cutting because the numbers are going down. Very interesting and sad and kind of a bummer because I love the cycling industry, and even though some companies I don't see eye to eye with, it doesn't matter because they're part of the cycling community. Whatever spectrum of it is, right? So they're all struggling. I'm struggling as a small micro level of this. I will sustain and get through because my hits are really small or substantial, and it doesn't take much of a gain for me to regain those grounds. So I think I can sustain, hopefully, in theory, on books anyway, for a little while. You still need definitely business and so forth. I've still been getting business, and that's fine. It's just at a lower rate. So I just readjust, and unfortunately, I can't lay anybody off. It's just me. So let's talk about the two big elephants in the room this week. Well, quality bike supply. If you don't know quality bike supply, which you may not, because majority of you guys and gals out there are individuals that are just a consumer, you go to a bike shop or you buy online, whatever the case may be. Well, Quality Bike Supply is a wholesaler that sells to the bike shops, and they've been around for a long time. They're one of the top twos. When you're in a bike shop you order from, you do from Quality or J&B or from your major vendors like Trek or Specialized Lab, then you kind of scale down. As a buyer, that's your perspective. So Quality Bike Supply is a big elephant in the room because they're one of the companies that do direct-to-consumer sales through the portal of a business. So if I was a retail location, I can use them, not stock the parts, but use their warehouse. Essentially, I advertise and sell on my website, and they'd shoot it from there directly, so I don't have to do all that. Anyway, they're big. They have multiple warehouses across the nation and also in Canada. And they have one in Denver, Colorado, which was really nice being a local bike shop because you can get parts within a day, which is pretty quick. So that really helped out for the repairs and so forth and that kind of thing. They also purchased Barnett School from the EMBA or whatever Bicycle Association, which they bought it from Barnett itself because he retired. Long story short, they had it for like a year or two and they shut it down. Just not enough money, not enough portal going through there. So, reading, in the Bicycle Retailer, which by the way, I worked for this guy for Retail Toolkit from Will and Sprocket, kind of. That was a software company that I got engaged with working at Lee's Cyclery. And, it's kind of funny that he's at the cover. He's doing great. They have multiple locations, Will and Sprocket, really nice cat. Anything, a lot of respect. But anywho, out of the brain, as we call it in the industry, Bicycle Retail, what was it called? Bicycle Retail and Industry News reported that Quality is going to do some layoffs, and they are laying off somewhere around 50 people and so forth of various departments. It's scaling back. So in other words, they're saying the cause of all of this is the inventory being too much. They have too much of it. They can't sell it. It's not moving. It's one of those things that prices need to come down. That cuts into the bottom line. And there's a whole bunch of aspects which is really hurting the cycle industry. And when you're looking at like Quality bicycles, they, like all big companies, they take loans to get the stuff built. They carry like Salsa, Surly, 45 North, those are proprietary brands that they carry, which you've probably heard of. They come from Quality. They're the distributor of those. And when they buy those and what have you, they have to put money, which they borrow from the bank at a higher interest rate right now, which is they need to pay that off in a short term so they don't lose their profit. Well, this whole horse before the cart situation is just coming ahead. And this has already seen this. We've seen this with Specialized, we've seen this with Trek, we've seen this with various other brands and smaller companies that provide products, and it's just, this stuff is not moving. It's just kind of a slow down, which as a consumer, it's a great time to buy because you can actually just name your price. I would, don't hesitate. I mean, it's like one of those things, like you can email like Jensen's USA and say, hey, I see that GT or that Rocky Mountain or whatever brand they're carrying, and like, hey, I see it on sale. Would you take another 50 bucks off or whatever? If you never know, you can ask. I've heard cases that sometimes they're receptive to that. They're just there to try to make sales right now because they just need cash flow to pay off those bills and everything else and their overhead and what have you. Well, you're talking about Quality. They have several warehouses. Warehouses are expensive, right? I mean, it's just, then not just products. So you got all these different things. Well, what caused all this? Well, coming down of any major high is a low, regardless. We got on top of that, interest rates went up. People are really nervous about their jobs. All those kinds of things are just hitting all in the same time. So in addition to here in Colorado, which is also a good portion of the United States, where the weather's been really weird. Like we had abnormally cold temperatures way late. A lot of rain, more than we've ever seen. It's just like unprecedented type situations where that just snuffs a lot of people from going out and buying bikes and going for rides and so forth. I did the MS 150 mechanical sport a couple weekends ago, the last weekend of June, and all those cats I talked to that I worked on bikes, they were like, this sucks because we didn't get a chance to train because the weather's been so bad. And June, you usually think like, oh, you got at least a couple months of training. And for some of these people, the distance of 70 miles or 60, 70 miles in one day that's pretty long for some of these people. For somebody that's an avid rider, like, give me a week and a half or put me on the trainer for Highway to Nowhere for a couple days, I'll be good to go. Well, those individuals have muscle memories like myself. I mean, it's like, it's weird that I can just go, but it does take me 10 miles to kind of warm up. That's the age thing on me. But anyway, the weather has been a huge factor in outdoor recreation, period. It's just people are not fishing or hiking as much or camping. Well, they're trying to camp because they reserve their spots, but it's been crappy, so they may cop out. And then all of a sudden everything switches and then I was like blazingly hot. And so I don't know. I do know it's what it is. It's like all these different variables are just crushing all these, businesses and so forth, and Trek and Specialized are still trying to buy all these stores, and they're trying to push that out. And then you have Quality going, we're kind of freaking out, and so forth. So that's the Quality bike supply portion of it, which the article in Brain had a little more detail of why, and they're saying inventory is a little too much, and they're sitting on stuff, and it's not really coming out, and all those things, or selling as fast. So what you're going to see is they're going to be pumping the brakes on any new tech coming out, period. They just have too much of it. They need to sell through it. And then also, when you don't sell through, you got to keep selling it for another year or two, kick the can down the road to make that money on investments to put into new tech. It's just like, you got to have that. You just can't release something every year, because you got to get your investment on that. So for example, here's an interesting little twist I saw a couple weeks ago is, the SRAM has electronic shifting now, and it's kind of cool because each individual unit has its own battery, so you don't have any cables at all. And they have like 3 different models of road, or 2 or 3, and a couple models of mountain. Well, here's the tricky bit. It's half off almost. Like, you're talking about like a $1,400 to $1,600 group set down to like $600 to $800. That's a huge margin drop. And I've seen this from several vendors and several people, and it's like, okay, they're buying it directly from SRAM. SRAM is driving this drop inside, and they basically have too many of them. They just have to get rid of them. They have to go somewhere. So all these like Planet Cyclery, Jensen's, those are the 2 I usually go to. They're just like, you see these and they're just dropping. You're like, oh man. And I just look for 8-speed chains because I got to repair for 8-speed chains. Chains are like super cheap. I mean, we're like, wow, okay. I mean, if you're an avid cyclist right now, you're going to go out and like, I'm going to buy as much chains, tubes, cassettes, all this stuff, while the prices are super cheap to get you through the next couple of days, or a couple of years. It's one of those things. Well, unfortunately, they're not making margins on those. They're just making a lot less margins. So therefore, Quality Bike Supply, where can they cut? People. They're more expensive, but also is their most valuable asset for most companies, so it's done right. So that's a tricky thing. In addition to going to the pros closet, we're going to talk about this for a little bit. The pros closet is basically a big brother of my micro business. Essentially the huge version of what I do. I just do mine on a smaller level. I refurbish road bikes. Well, they refurbish or fix up and buy a lot of bikes, all different kinds. I'm just more of a niche of just into road. So like, I'm on the micro level, right? So I do everything myself. I'm one dude that does like the website, the listing the parts, cleaning the bikes, buying them, all that stuff. So it's just me. So I can't lay myself off. So it's like, I got to really kind of adjust my business accordingly where the demand is. Well, the demand's like right now more service. So I open up more service, that kind of thing, and make myself more approachable in that aspect of it and that kind of thing. Well, Pros Closet has done the same thing. They opened up their own, they never done service before. Now they're doing service. I mean, they have all the equipment to do it, so I have no problems with that at all whatsoever. And they also now opened up their showroom floor, or a showroom floor. They cut out part of their warehouse, and it's beautiful. It's nice. I mean, it's really kind of cool. You walk in and you're like, ooh, it's massive. And you have all these bikes. But the thing is, for them, they had to really shift gears because all their stuff has been fixed up, cleaned, pictured, and then boxed. Right? So it's sitting in the box waiting for somebody to pull that trigger on the cart, right? Well, when you're selling a person, you're not going to, you want it outside of the box and try it on. So they had to shift gears. So where they're looking at in a situation where they had to unbox all of these to make them showroom quality again and put them on the floor where people can touch them and take them for test rides and that kind of thing. So that was kind of a big hurdle, I bet. I'm sure it was because, it's for me, I sell locally and ship, so I don't box these things up until it's bought. So for them, it was kind of like a big change. Well, they hired a little bit of people. They fired another. Well, they did a first round in September, October. They did another one in January, February. Now they're on the 3rd round of layoffs in 1 year. That stings. Reason being is whatever they tried to do to kind of head off the leakage and the loss, they have not gained. So it's definitely not a good sign. The owner CEO, I think he retired too this year to spend more time with families. So somebody has stepped up and basically handed a hot mess like, here you go, dig us out. And like, oh, I can do it, all enthusiastic. And that's probably going to last maybe another 3 to 6 months until that cat's like, I'm out, because it's kind of like a fireball going down. Why I say this and why I'm concerned and what I feel sad, I always dislike seeing bike shops and businesses close because it's part of the cycling community. For me, I'm not biased. I mean, it's like whatever you think about Trek, whatever you think about Specialized, whatever you think about any of those brands, they are part of the community. Even think, back with Lance Armstrong, everybody has an opinion about him doping and all that and whatever. But living that experience of him winning those tours made the industry better. I mean, and also put eyes on cancer research. So you can't just totally shun everything off. Same thing with like Pro's Closet. It's like a lot of people, they do a whole bunch of comments on anything they post, like, oh, the price is too much, they gouge me and all this and other. And like, yeah, they got some bad PR-ish going for them. But in the end of the day, though, they're still a bike shop. They're trying to provide good, used, quality bikes for people. They have guarantees and all these things. So I can't fault them too much for all that. And they're trying service, which is like, for me, how I look at it is like, oh, that's last-ditch effort, or close to opening up a showroom floor, which they probably should have done that in the first place, and provide that, and also added fitting. But the adding or taking away more people from the mix in mid-season, I'm talking, this is July. This is when you're staffed up and should be super freaking busy. Like you needed another 4 people on whatever you're doing, and they're laying people off. Same thing for quality and several other companies out there. So that means that really the cycling industry is hurting. And I'm sure this is carrying over to any outdoor retail. I'm sure you'll see a lot of that crossed over. So if you're a kayaker, a climber, or anything, I bet all that crap is, I mean, I'm sure it's across the board. So that's what we're looking at of this craziness. So here we are. It's July. You got sales all over. As a consumer, it's great. If you're working in the industry, I'd be a little nervous. I'm a little nervous. I mean, how can you not be? I mean, you look at the tea leaves and you're like, oh boy, what's next down the line? So hopefully we have a very long, warm summer because in Colorado and various other states that are seasonal. For here, we have so many outdoor activities, i.e. skiing and snowboarding and snowshoeing and cross-country skiing and that kind of thing for the winter. Usually when it snows that first time, people put their bikes away. It's like done, which is oddly weird. But even though if you're a native Coloradan like I am, you're gonna have a lot of nice days afterwards, so why put the bike away? But it shuts off. So I remember having, in Parker Bikes days, we would have an early snowstorm in September or October. That would kill our business. It'd be done. Repairs stop coming in. People are like, oh, maybe next time, whatever, maybe next season. They just keep pushing and kicking that can down the road. So for the crystal ball here, if I'm going to put any in, it's like we're struggling, we're hurting. We're just now starting to see a little bit of life. Well, I am for like service and bike sales and that kind of thing. There's some people still out there. I got to my purchasing has to be completely different in the sense, and I got to get a lot less. I'm looking for lower end, nicer quality, not as high volume, more precision to be more effective and bringing the right product to mix. That's what all these other companies are readjusting to do. And if we have a snowstorm in September and October here, or the temperatures cool off like we had for a lot of the region, we're going to be in trouble. I mean, it's just trouble. So I'm hoping it's going to be like 80s to November because I need that. We all need that. We need to get out there and ride and that kind of thing. So if you're very close to your bike shops in the sense that the guys' names and what have you, I've been sending this before. It's like, hey, go in, buy some extra tubes, give them some extra service. Do what you can, participate in those group rides, because even though they may not see it on their face, but in the back of their head, they're like, we're digging out of this hole and we're not even close of getting out of it yet. So if you're out there and you like your cycling community, be more engaged, buy more gels from them, whatever, purchasing is like voting for businesses. I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's like if you buy something from gels from their store versus buying it online where it's cheaper, I know. If you can do that, that's great. Basically, you're supporting those local businesses, even though they may be priced a little bit higher. If you like those engagements, hopefully they're giving you the warm hug when you come in because they missed you. I was like, we missed you, customers. So unfortunately, when you're talking about top of the line where quality and the pros closet is big and all those things, and they're kind of scaling back and it's reflecting in the industry and so forth, you're going to see some big changes. Quality bike supply, they'll sustain, they'll be fine. They are a big company. They've been around for a long time. They've been through all these highs and lows. They know what they need to do. The Pros Closet, they've been around for a long time, but they're big. And what's their caveat is they took like a $40 million investment a few years back. Those cats are going to be asking for that money back or some investment on the return. I mean, you only can push that invoice down the line so far. So I think they're going to be, hopefully they can blaze through this and be okay with some changes and keeping everybody, or at least some core people around. But I don't know. It kind of reminds me of the Schwinn days when Schwinn was owned by Eddie Schwinn, like the grandson of the Papa Schwinn. And he drove the company into the ground. And that's at the height of mountain biking. So if you can destroy a company while it's at the height of something, well, when it's hard times, even the best of the best efforts, you may not have a choice. I mean, they have a big warehouse. They need to, get their branding out there a little bit better. They maybe need to reevaluate their processes as well. Look at some other opportunities. I mean, they are grasping everywhere. I mean, they're bringing in bike lines, they're bringing in parts to sell at retail level. They're doing everything they can. I just don't think it's going to be fast enough to recover. I mean, third round of layoffs in a year, that's pretty significant. So I think, if anything, they'd kind of boast it a little bit and go to be sold. Like, I think their end game is going to be try to make the company look good in the sense that we have a good presence and so forth, a branding and marketing, and have somebody buy them. Who's going to buy them? Who's buying right now? Who's buying bike shops right now? You got three major players. You got Trek, you got Specialized, you got Pon. Pon owns Canada, owns several other brands. Pon you'll see as Mike's Bikes. Specialized you'll see InCycle is their branded store names, and Trek is just Trek Corporate. So those three cats. So if I was in Pros Closet shoes and knowing that the graph charts are just colliding, like we have like 6 months to a year to keep going until we're just dead in the water, I would really kind of spruce things up to sell. Basically, you're at the position, and they have strong enough branding and so forth. And here's the pitch. This is my back thought process of being in industry, going for a bike ride, thinking about things. What if, brand like Specialized, for example. Specialized has been around for a long time. They have a great product line and so forth and so on. Well, they're buying stores. What's going to make them more unique than Trek? I mean, you got a Trek corporate store and you got a Specialized corporate store. Well, the Specialized, just use Specialized. It could be Trek, you name your brand, or Pon. What they could do is take a little piece of what this is, like what I'm doing, okay, used. The used market. They really don't like dealing with used, but if they twist it and do like trade-ins. We'll do trade-ins, and we used to do trade-ins of Parker bikes, that kind of thing, trade-ins, a lot of shops do. They do the actual trade-ins. And they have the staff so they can clean up and get those trade-ins that are their brand, like Specialized trades in Specialized. And then they get the lower end market, those bikes to, a lower end, higher quality mountain bike or lower end price point road bike. I mean, they can't build them cheaper than 1,500 out of Taiwan. Well, what if you take some of your used Specializes and fix them up and sell them for under 1,000? That you grab that whole market of people that are just getting into riding. Well, just those are getting into riding, guess what? They need all this stuff. They need helmets, pumps, and all that things. That's why you have that low-end entry-level bike. Well, if you do that with lower, you draw more people and you sell more accessories. So in that aspect of the business brain part of me is like, if you shifted and did trade-ins and did used bikes, certified pre-owned Specialized, pre-owned Treks, pre-owned Cannondales, whatever. You're just promoting the longevity of the brand you have. So if you have like a Specialized and you're selling an older Roubaix for like $800, that Roubaix is saying, I'm still a really good bike and I'm good because I was built by a really good brand and it has longevity. So you're actually building your brand in a used market way. Okay, you got that. Well, what do you do with all the brands you don't want? You buy Pro's Closet. That's where you dump all your other brands that you don't want in your stores. You want it somewhere else, and you use Pro's Closet to just cycle through all the off brands that you don't sell. And then they have a machine and a website, and you push all those out. So it'd be a really good investment, hint, hint, Trek, Specialized, Pond, to purchase Pro's Closet or therefore something of that nature, because it'll be easier to buy it versus to build it yourself. Reason being, there's blue sky in just local bike shops, but there's not as much blue sky there is in branding. Like everybody knows, they did a huge push. Tour de France 2 years ago, Pro's Closet, all over the place, Pro's Closet. And then they start hurting, and then you don't see their ads. But there's they got their name out there. It's like New Coke, they know it there. So you take that brand, you're buying the brand, and you do whatever you need to do with the warehouse or whatever. But you take that, and you're able to utilize the offload of trade-in. So you're adding a huge value to customers walking into the door. We got a trade-in value. You can put it towards this other Specialized. I don't care what you have. Oh, you have a Giant? Fine. Cool, we'll give you the Bicycle Blue Book value, blah. We'll take that, then we ship that over to Pro's Closet facility or your used facility, and then you can sell it out there. Therefore, you're getting that new customer, you're getting them on the bike, you have a good surplus of bikes of your own brand that are used, pre-certified, and then you just got this huge, good cycle of lower price point income coming into your chain. I mean, do that. Independent bike shops do the same thing. A lot of them are still like, oh, I don't want to do used. Like, well, you're going to have to do used because that's what people are looking for. And figure out a way that works for you, of course. But that's the more product you put out there. And like road bikes for me is highly successful because there hasn't been huge advancements in the last 20 years. Therefore, those componentry and so forth, it's still, even if it's like 10 years old, still blows the doors off of a new $1,500 bike, which has the bottom line stuff and aluminum frame. I can get you something half the price with carbon with Ultegra componentry on it. I mean, no brainer. So when you look at those particular situations, it's a win-win. So yeah, Pro's Closet, you're gonna have to probably look to sell if you're, because 4 rounds coming up of layoffs, you probably not have anybody left. So it's one of those things, boast the brand, the rest you can through the season, and sell to the, promote that pitch to Trek, Specialized, and Pond, and see if you can get some kind of savior of the brand, and maybe save the staff below you. They're going to need people to run it, so they're not going to just axe everybody. And if they have good people in play, they're going to keep them. And that's what they're doing at the Trek and Specialized stores and bikes owned by Pond now. It's one of those things where you got to maintain, the staff it's hard to find people out there. to work on bikes or familiar with everything in cycling. So there's a huge value there. So anyway, rambled on about the pros closet, QBP. There's going to be several other ones coming down the line. I know bicycle retail is definitely looking at different companies that are actually letting go, that kind of thing. And yeah, welcome to the, as the wheel turns. Feel free to throw a question in the chat if you want to be part of the conversation. I know there's just a couple of you guys out there right now, but that's the concept of this. But to the tail end of this, kind of shift gears to a funny. So if you're familiar with YouTube, they came out with Shorts. It's basically their thing for TikTok, right? And everybody's trying to take away TikTok's market, including Reels from Facebook and Meta and all that. So, whatever. But they have Shorts, and they started doing Shorts, I think it was November last year. I jumped on it in December, starting this channel just for fun, just to see. And I had very good success. That's what I'm talking about here. It's just kind of, well, you yourself probably found me through a short. But the funny thing is on Shorts, if you don't build Shorts, the Shorts, you don't have a thumbnail choice, right? It's kind of like a pre-generated picture that's selected when you're doing the short, right? So you see some of these short pictures and you're like seeing like, there's one lady I watch, she does learning how to do YouTube and that kind of thing, be a YouTuber. I watch videos of those so I can get an idea what the hell I'm doing here, because I know this. I don't know YouTube, as I'm getting way better, but it's a slow roll because I'm really busy. I'm just promoting my business, right? So one of these shorts, just going back to the shorts, this is the funny part. Like one of the pictures, she's an okay looking gal, so it's like one of those things like her face is like, with her tongue sticking out. It was like, oh man, that's gotta be, oh man, really? So I did a short, I think it was yesterday, and this is just, let me see. I haven't got the picture-in-picture software and all that yet, so I'll have to use my iPad here. And this is just funniest thing. So I'm gonna flash this, and keep in mind, this is on my channel, this is my short, and just take a look at this real quick. And it makes you look twice, right? Am I wrong here? Is this like weird? It's like you look at it like, well, that's my finger. So get your head out of the gutter, number one. My finger is actually showing the delineation of a new chain versus a stretched out chain. But at first you're like, I showed this to my wife last night, and she's like, oh, what? It was like, oh my God. And just like, yeah, that's my finger. And it was this whole conversation of hilarious. Like, so I had to share. So I did, I don't know the hashtag world, but I did a hashtag thumbnail fails, or yeah, fail. So if you see anything out there that bad thumbnail that's funny, just hashtag it. It's going to be hilarious. But yeah, it's one of those things like, oh, I better go look at my other ones, because I don't really look at them too much after I release them, in a sense, because yeah, I've moved on. I'm on other things. And when you're doing videos like this, you put concentration in your thumbnails to grab people's attention, but you have no control of the shorts. And yeah, so I went through all my old shorts, right? And I'm like, okay, does any of them look like horrible? It's like bad, so I just know. And a couple of them were kind of, not quite not telling the story, what it whole is. But anywho, I thought I would share that funny little bit of my shorts thumbnail faux pas. But anyway, I was trying to just show what a difference of a chain. And talking about chains, this is what I came across yesterday. Yeah, you better make sure you got your tetanus shot touching this thing, because yeah, this thing sat outside, and I haven't seen these rusty very often, but when I do, I have to kind of like show and tell, like, look at this. I had one once that was so rusted that you could move it and it would stay in position. So obviously I put a new chain on there, and ironically the rest of the drivetrain wasn't rusty at all. It's just, I think that chain was extremely dry, like didn't have any lube on it, and then it was sat outside. And chains will, if they don't have a lot of lube on them, if not at all, just exposed metal like this. This is like Michigan rust, but it will corrode pretty quickly. And of course, these will not regenerate because it's just there's so much friction between those plates, and it's not good for all the other components on there. So definitely. And right now, yeah, the prices aren't cheap on chains, so get yourself a couple, that kind of thing. Also, final note. Just wanted to bring this up. If you were gonna think about doing, I've been playing with wax on wax chains, like the molten wax, the Secret from Silka, and I've kind of made my own blend too. But that's not a pitch for this. I'm just saying the idea of waxed chains is longevity, that kind of thing. But when you get your chain waxed, just don't have one chain. Have like 2 or 3 chains waxed at the same time. So when that one chain starts making noise and chatter, and that's if you're able to know how to use the quick links and all that and put a chain, which is not too hard. So YouTube it up, check it out. But you can switch out to another chain that it's already waxed. What this does is lengthens the life of the chain and the rest of the componentry on your bike. So the tech tip this week would be, if you're gonna do the wax, do like 3 chains. And right now is perfect time to buy 3 chains because, hey, what? They're like half off right now. So you're gonna go through chains. Especially if it's a bike that you ride and you ride avidly, this is a way to keep the rest of the componentry, like the cassettes and the chain rings and the jockey pulleys, to stay alive. Also, it provides a really nice performance. It's really quiet, it shifts really quick and smooth. So yeah, after I'm testing right now, I figure about 300 miles or so, you can switch out to the next chain, so you can get maybe 1,000 miles on 3 different chains, depending on what kind of riding, contaminants, if it's mountain bike versus road, whatever, those things are a factor. But if you're gonna take those opportunity of these low prices, you can get multiple chains, give them wax, try out that service, that kind of thing, and see what you think. I have my neighbor, she races, she's on wax chain right now, she seems to really like it, and a couple other people. I like it. I'm testing on my own version, and I have like 5 of my bikes waxed, and man, it's a lot smoother. So also, you don't have like that dark chain ring or chain blockage blackness on your legs because it just feels completely dry, just coated, and it seems to work really well. And if they've done studies, and there's a couple of companies that have done tests on all these waxes, and they outperform your liquid drip wax by a lot, and the wear, so it's scientifically backed by testing from several different places that this is the stuff. It works, and it works well. The history behind that, they waxed chains back at the turn of the century. That was their lube for the drivetrains for back when they did the Tour de France way back then. So anywho, well, I got to get back to work. Love chatting with you guys. Until next week, I'll come live and you can interact if you wish, or just listen to me jibber jabber about whatever I need to jibber jabber about. If it's nice outside in your neck of the woods, go for a bike ride. If it's cloudy, go visit your bike shop. Hey, get excited about cycling. Get something new. Maybe a new chain, grips, jersey. They're all on sale, I'm sure, somewhere. I'm sure you'll find something. Get excited about riding. Get yourself something fresh. I got I've added a couple new things just to get me all jazzed up, and I'm all jazzed up and riding. So anywho, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you for spending time with me. Again, this is Justin from the garage, and you just watched as the wheel turns, so do the days of our rides. Have a great weekend. Thanks, guys.